Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture. We are back to the basics once again. And before I, introduce my guest, I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Pocket Jack Comics, who have books like Palace of the Golden Princess and White Lily, and they're just awesome comics. So go check out what they do at pocketjackcomics.com. But enough about that, because I have with me voice actress Maria Amelia Park. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, no, I am very excited because you got a lot of stuff going on. You're obviously heavily involved in the voice acting world. I think it is a good way to put it in a lot of different fashions. But before we get into some of your roles and talk a little bit about you, why don't you quickly introduce who you are?
My name is Maria Amelia Park. I am a professional voice actor residing in Dallas, Texas. I've been doing voiceover for probably 26 years now. And yeah, I'm a comic book lover. I love anything sci-fi. I'm a big Tokusatsu and Super Sentai fan, so I'm like heartbroken because Super Sentai is no longer making shows. We're not getting any more Sentai for a while, probably a decade plus. And what else? And I also like Power Rangers that I compare to Super Sentai all the time. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
So I have to ask. I mean, you must be a Go Lion fan, right?
Yes.
For those who don't know, Go Lion, it's also called
Because they
Voltron.
have Voltron, yeah. And there were so many different iterations of Voltron. It's so funny because I remember when they brought over the second iteration of Voltron and like the air, sky, and sea team, and they were like our land team, land, sea, and sky team, and it was like it took so long to form Voltron. I'm like, there's no way that they would have survived an attack because it was like, it had to be like 15 minutes. Like, that was always funny to me. But that's the old 80s and 90s cartoons for you. We just suspend our disbelief. But I was actually a really big Saber Rider and the Star Sheriffs fan. I don't know if anyone ever remembers that cartoon, but I love that. I loved it. I love when they brought it over. It was really, really cool. So.
See,
Yeah.
I'm a mecha guy, right? And I love mecha anime, but I'm a big Gundam fan. I'm a
Me
big
too.
Neon Genesis Evangelion fan. I love that stuff. And that's like my jam. And so yeah, that's where I am. Hence my watch here. And I just get Genesis Evangelion G-Shock watch. But I digress right there. But obviously, I mean, you've been doing this for 26 years. I don't mean to date you. Hopefully I'm not dating you too much or giving away too much of your age per se. But you invited the problem a little bit in. I'm just letting you know that.
It's fine. It's fine. I've made it this far in life, so I'm good.
How did you get involved though? Because to be involved in voice acting for 26 years, that's a long time. And how did you get involved initially into it?
So,
It's kind
okay,
of crazy.
it is crazy. So I've always been into acting. I did theater in school. And then so at first I was just messing around online back in the day as one does. And this is before we had Twitter and all of the social media. And I just happened to find a group called Pendant Audio. And Pendant Audio would do these like radio dramas, or I guess we call them podcasts now, audio podcasts now, where they would take certain like material, either original or say something like Wonder Woman, or I was in one called Star Trek Defiant, which was I love Star Trek, so that was a really big deal. But they would write stories about it, and I auditioned for it, and I started booking. I'm like, this is really cool that you can, every week act in and be in a production that you're proud of, and you get to hear other people. And it kind of expanded from there, but it was about, I want to say in 2002 or 3. I want to say 2002. I met my friend Kyle Abear. Now, if you know who Kyle Abear is, he plays the Great Saiyaman and Dragon Ball Z. I mean, he's in a lot of stuff. He's in Yu Yu Hakusho. He's in Naruto and Bleach. He's in a lot of things. But we kind of met online. We both had daughters that are basically born in the same year. So we were single parents, and so we kind of bonded over that. And then we bonded over the fact that we were both, actors. And he had said, "Oh, I'm working with this company called Funimation," and this was about 2003, and I was going to go to
Let
Texas.
me stop. I need to ask the question.
Uh-huh.
Was it when they were over the bank, or did they just move
Yes. Over
right back
Frosted
in the
Bank.
day, right?
Yeah, way back in the day, back at the Frosted Bank era in Fort Worth, yes. Yes, that was that's funny that you said that because that was always so funny to me. But yeah, so, like, he was like, "Hey, you should give them if you're moving to Texas, you should, like, come check them out." So, I got on the audition list, and then I auditioned with Sunny Story. I believe it was, like, on a Tuesday, and, like, it was he had me basically, we had these sides. So, back in the day, you had, like, this thick book of sides, and you would pitch characters, and you just, read from them. I think I did, like, 3 or 4, and then he just signed off, and then I started, doing bits and Walla from that point. And bits are basically, like, characters that are in the scene that don't have names. Sometimes they do have a name bit, or they're episodic characters. But, yeah, I just kinda started from there, and I was there from 2004 to 2008, well, beginning of 2008, where I actually had to leave because my mother was diagnosed with cancer. So I had to leave Texas and go back home to take care of her. And I was gone for a very long time because after my mother passed from leukemia, my then spouse was diagnosed with brain cancer. And so I was taking care of my spouse. And then right after my spouse passed away, my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So from 2008 into 2022, I was away from the scene. I would do like kind of like indie games and a few things here and there, but I was completely out. I did not officially come back until the end of 2022. So I've been back since that point in time, and now I'm just working full time as a voice actor again.
Let's get into that too. So obviously, I mean, you took a break, and a lot of stuff changed. I think is a fair argument to be made in the whole voice acting world. I mean, I think COVID and people give
Oh
me shit.
yeah.
I'll just state this, and I have no problem stating it, and I'll take the heat for it. COVID was a net positive for me, and I understand that this sounds weird when I say it, but it forced remote work. It forced me to evolve into this medium a lot quicker than I would have, and it was a net positive because it opened up, in my opinion, the possibilities of remote work, the possibilities of getting outside talent. And I also think it changed, how you record, how you do business ultimately. And I think it opened up possibilities. But even before that, we moved from the beep system back in early 2003, 2005 to a little bit more of a professional position. Also, more pro tools came into the industry. And feel free to tell me to be quiet if I'm wrong on any of it.
Well, the beeps are still like if you go to somewhere like Crunchyroll, the beeps are still there.
But you have more pro
But
tools. This is the
yeah,
point
but
I'm making.
Pro Tools is definitely we we have an evolution of technology. It is I call it more conveyor belt now. It's such a system that they have down that it's just you're in and you're out, you're in and you're out. So it's just so like it's a well-oiled machine. Whereas before we were still working with paper scripts, and like everything was just documented by hand. And so it was a little bit different. But yeah,
And
it's
then
definitely evolved.
and then to even go into that as well is that also I think there's just more content now in
Yes,
anime.
absolutely.
There's a lot more where, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I remember back in the day, every 3 months you got like maybe 6 episodes on VHS. You
Yeah.
were lucky. You were lucky. You're like, man, this show has 26 episodes. We could finish it in 3 years, guys. Way to go! Like finally. And then now it's like every week something comes out on Crunchyroll, and then the
Well,
anime
yeah.
comes
Well,
out.
and also and not think about it, not just with anime. I think video games evolved too, because you would have to wait for specific releases, and they could take years sometimes for them to come out. And now the indie, like having indie games, has exploded, especially with Steam. A lot of creators now are able to be able to make their own games, sometimes a lot cheaper than a lot of the big brand gaming studios are doing, and they're making names for themselves, and so many games that started off as indie are now becoming very anticipated projects. So yeah, it definitely changed a lot over the years. I was shocked. I was kind of shell shocked, but I wanted to say, as from a voice acting standpoint, I do understand what you're saying about COVID, because back in the day you had to go in studio. Before COVID, you had to go in studio. It was very rare that anyone did anything remotely. It just wasn't a thing. And then when COVID hit, I call it a happy side effect of something horrible. Is what I pretty much say. The remote world opened up, and you didn't just get domestic. A lot of international actors had a chance to be in anime and other projects domestically here because of remote work, whereas they did not have a way of doing that before. So, yeah, it did open up, a broader like search for talent than if COVID had not happened. So I do understand what you're saying with that.
I call it evolution, right? In which that it forced an evolution.
Yeah.
And I believe that evolutions, and people can disagree with me, is that you have to evolve or you die.
Yeah.
To put it nicely. And the way I viewed it is that you could now have talent, and then this has happened with Crunchyrolls, that you have people in California in certain animes in Texas, in Crunchyroll, Funimation, and Sentai, films and all that. And I think it's great because while it brings more competition, it also raises up the game for
Yeah.
everybody, where everybody has to get better. And that's what I
Yeah.
love about what COVID did. Now, I'm not saying I wish COVID happened. Don't get me wrong, anybody. Trust me, nobody wanted COVID.
No,
But
it's the happy side effect
the
of
end
the
result
horrible
quality
thing that was
was
COVID.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I want to really talk about your roles, because obviously there's a bunch of stuff that you were involved in, and we're gonna go a little bit out of order because I was lazy and I didn't exactly write it in order. No problem admitting it. But the one I want to talk about, because I like cats, is your role in the Royal Cat,
Oh,
because that's the one that I know you from. I know a bunch of other people also were in that. And so that's a fun one because you were a son, and I'm not even going to try to say the last name because I would
yeah,
just be.
Amaran, she's crazy. Son is crazy. She sounds nothing like me, obviously. But yeah, so my good friend, my BFF of like 20 something years directed that show. And, we all had our demos in, and she knows me personally. She knows I'm a naturally zany person, but I had no idea what I was getting into when I went in. And she's like, I really want you for this, smaller character. Cause I think she's in like maybe 3 or 4 scenes, but they're very impactful because she's insane. Sun's entire journey in that movie is to kill that cat, the royal cat. That's what she's trying to do because he is always in her way. Like she owns a store, or I guess it's a store. The very first scene, you see him running out of her store, and she's literally on a death run, a death hunt with 2 other guys or 3 other guys to kill him. And they have like an entire scene where she chases him. She even climbs up like this huge, like, I don't know, banner wall to get him, and it's completely insane. And they end up almost falling to their death. And then you think that's the end, and then later on something happens and they interact again, and he's like doing something to her, and she's trying to kill him again. So like Sun's entire journey, her whole journey is trying to kill the royal cat. That is her thing. And it was really fun. It was fun to play that.
Because what is that like? Because obviously it was a movie, I think, and,
Yeah.
and movies are different than TV shows
Mhm.
and being in an episode or two. And I don't know if you feel there's prestige to being in a movie versus a show or being in a few episodes, but it's also nice to be, I think, in a completed work and also be. I wouldn't say you were the star, but you had a prominent role as well in this whole movie. And so, what was that like? Because I think it's a big deal at the very least. I don't know how you feel about it, but like I view it as a big deal when you're in a movie versus a episode or two of an anime. Not saying you don't want to be in both. That's not what I'm saying, but like that's how I view it as just somebody looking in.
Yeah, so I don't know if someone would be considered prominent, but she's definitely comic relief, because that's what she was. But no, it's weird. So like the recording for the movie is just like recording for anything else I've recorded for that's animated. But I will say I think the difference is like you said, we knew it was going to be a completed work. It was, I mean, that was it. There's not going to be unless they make a sequel, which I don't know what they would do. We knew that this was going to be a one and shop done, a 2 hour movie or whatever. And, everybody was kind of excited about it. I mean, you're always excited to get into anything as an actor, anything that you're cast in, you're excited. But yeah, it was definitely for me a good experience because I've never done anything with Walgo before. And this is a Walgo USA movie. And so that was exciting. And I've never done a CG movie. So that was my first CG movie. So that was pretty cool. So the art style is completely different from anime or any other animation that I've done. So yeah, that was fun. And then of course, knowing your fellow actors and your friends, like I would go into the studio and I'd see another actor come out that I know. And so it was like, oh, you're in this too. Because we never know unless they release a cast list preemptively, you don't know who's in anything with you. So that's always fun.
I mean, I'll let everybody in on a little secret here about how things are recorded. Rarely are you ever recording with somebody else.
No.
And so if you know that your friends are in it and you're seeing your friends and that you know that your character is going to interact with them, you're not directly interacting, but there is an advantage if you know a voice actor or a voice actress or your friend and you know how they're going to respond and you and your friend have conversations not in character but outside, you can get a sense of how to act and voice that character. And obviously you have directors, but it's very helpful when you know who you're playing against or playing with, because and so like I don't know how to explain that, but it's a very technical art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so a best way to okay, so I did a thing called like a digital game called Zombie Run. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but they basically would it's a mobile app where you could run to it, but there were stories that you would hear and we'd all act them out. And the one I was in was called Season of the Hunter. We were all on a call together. So we all got to use, I think it was called Riverside as a program. We all got to act with each other. And so bouncing off each other is so natural because normally when you're recording anything, you're by yourself and you're having to rely on the director and what you perceive as happening in order to try and to tell the story, especially if there's not any visuals. That's even harder. So creating that from scratch and hoping that the actors like, I really hope they kind of thought what I was thinking and we sound natural together. We won't know till it comes out. I mean, that's always a challenge. So when you can get everyone in the room, and I think at one time we had 18 people on that call, all acting our scenes, and it was amazing. So that's kind of the difference. In Japan, they kind of do that. They're all in the same studio together, so they get to bounce off of each other when they do anime and other projects. We don't always do that, especially in anime. It's so because you're so many people coming in, it is one after the other recording. So you're not normally. It's very rare, if ever, I've known to ever be in the studio together when you're recording something. So yeah, it's fun.
Again, it's an art and it's a skill set,
Yeah.
and it's not something that is. I think it is overlooked as a skill set. But I want to back out of this role because I want to talk about Vanessa Vermouth because this is something else, right? I mean, she's an interesting
Yeah.
character. She's an
Yeah.
interesting character.
So yeah, Lumion Lands is completely insane. It's an indie project. I'm really hoping we do more episodes. But basically my character is a landlord. She's a moth, by the way. She's a landlord. And apparently she's not getting her rent. And so kind of like my son character, maybe I'm being typecast. I don't know. She's just going after, the main characters to get her. They not only to get paid, they also stole her pool key. She has like the swimming pool and they're all like hanging out and she locks it and they stole her key. And so she goes after them for it. And I don't know if I was going to kill them as Vanessa. I mean, it kind of looked that way. She ripped the top of the car off. So who knows? But yeah, that was fun. It's also fun because we had no animation to that. We did all of our lines first and then so it was prelay and they animated to it. So it's pretty fun.
So that must be nice though when it's prelay because you don't have to worry about matching flaps. You don't have to
Yeah.
worry about being as close as humanly possible. Or sometimes there's translation issues and you got to rework some stuff because something in Japan might not work in America for lack of a better word, just in wording. But if it's all prelay, they're going to animate around what you say versus you matching flaps. So but what is that like to be on indie projects though? Because as you stated before, I think is that now we have a lot of independent animation happening more so
Yeah.
than ever before. And I'm not saying it's uber cheap per se, but it's not as expensive as it was 10 years ago to
Yeah.
do this. So like it's kind of cool though because I'm not saying it's hard to compete against One Piece. We're just gonna say
Well, that's a different level, though. That's, I mean, what One Piece is like 1,000 episodes. That's completely different. But like, no, I mean, there's no there. So to me, I look at it as two different, genres. There is indie, and then there's like established animation. With established animation, there's nothing wrong with that. But the one thing as an actor that you'll always understand is that the choices in an anime are already made for the most part. Yes, you can get really good directors and they can direct you in English to maybe stand out a little bit, but at the end of the day, you're following the same story, the same motivation, the same choices that for the most part that the Japanese counterpart has followed because it's that story. But with an indie project that is coming off the ground, you are essentially making those choices with the director or the creator yourself. And so you are the original actor, if that makes sense. So I do like doing a lot of indie because I do feel like it gives you a little bit more time. Basically ways to explore how you would come across or how you would, present a character to the world without having another influence. So I do like that.
I'm curious how you feel about this because obviously with indie comics and Kickstarter, new ideas are being tested and new concepts are being tested. And look, I'll be the first to say is that there's good comics out there on the indie front and there's really rough ones, right? Meaning that some ideas are not the best ideas and some ideas are amazing, right? But the fact that they're being tested is really cool to the point where, because it's really, really hard to get a huge budget and do a show like One Piece. But there's all these cool ideas, and it's fun to throw an idea out at a dartboard and see if it works. And so I don't know how you feel about that, but like being part of indie projects, it allows, I think, for more experimentation on what can be done. And look, there's plenty of stuff that started off indie that then just took the ball and ran with it.
Yep.
And they're huge things. I mean, one of the biggest indie comics ever is The Walking Dead. Yep. And that started out, and nobody thought that thing was going to work, right? 6 issues in. And, I mean, the story is that it was supposed to be like an alien invasion, and it was supposed to be something, and then pretty much Robert Kirkman lied to the guy who greenlit it, and he's like, this is really good, man. Just keep going. I'm a little upset that you lied to me, but keep going. Sales are really good here. But the point is that, like, that I'm making, besides the joke, is that I don't know how you feel, because I would imagine doing indie projects, there's some cool stuff you can do in there, and there's some really cool stuff that's out there. I mean, we're going to talk about a few more of them. I mean, I'll just mention them right now. The Mafia Nanny. I mean, I don't know if anybody's seen that. That's pretty wild. That's
a wild.
Who the hell thought that would work? I didn't think that would work, right? Like,
I didn't even know. I had no idea. So that is oh my gosh, that apparently is a really big webtoon. I didn't know. I just got cast in it, and people are like, oh my God, you're in this. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, I had no idea. It's just like the Vampire Family. They are huge. Like, but I mean, I guess I could see it because webtoon popularity really like peaked, or not peaked, but like spiked during COVID. So I guess having people now act out these characters that people love, it makes them more submerged into that world. So I kind of see it. I kind of see that would be something that
I could see.
People
I could
go
see
rabid
the
about.
Vampire Family. I could see the Vampire Family working. Okay,
Yeah.
I get that one. The Mafia Nanny.
Oh, the Mafia Nanny's insane. It's absolutely insane. It's they're. The way they write these stories, they hook you. They can have what you would perceive the most nonsensical plots, but they will just reel you in, and you're just like, where is this train wreck going? And like, oh, it's not a train wreck. This is actually very interesting. And then you're just hooked, and that's what they do. And this is what webtoons do to us. So I respect the artists and the writers for those, because that is not easy.
I'll ask you a question. Have you ever read Axe Cop?
No, I haven't. But that sounds like something I probably would read.
It's insane. It's like basically it's complete randomness, right? So it's a cop who carries an axe, and it's his 19-year-old brother's the artist, and it's written by a 6-year-old, and it's the most ridiculous thing. And so I don't know exactly. It might be his stepbrother. It might be that his parents had kids 13 years apart. Maybe they had a kid when they were 21 and they had a kid 13 years later or 7 years later, whatever it was. But basically, what happens is that they say we have to find the bad guys. They go through the desk and then they find a map to a tunnel to the bad guys, and then they fight the bad guys. It's complete randomness and spontaneous randomness, but it's
Wow.
absolutely ridiculous. And I think it started out as a web comic, then it got published into a book, and then it became like an animated series for 3 seasons. But it's exactly what like the
Axe.
Mafia Nanny is, where it's just spontaneous combustion is the only way I can explain it, and that's why it's so like I
I
enjoy
have
it.
to look into that. I'll admit I haven't heard of the Axe. I mean, obviously there's so many projects out there. There's probably a ton of
I mean,
amazing
this is
projects
like
I haven't
10
heard of.
years old. I mean, Axe
Yeah.
Cop is like 10, 15 years old, but it's brilliant because you just read it and it's like the perfect thing. Like you just like have a beer or your whiskey and you're just chilling out and you don't even need to think about it. And it's ridiculous. And this is what me and my friends used to do in college. You get hammered and read Axe Cop. This is
Oh
exactly
wow.
what we did for
So you're telling
hours.
on yourself now. Okay, I got you.
For hours on end. But like that's my point is though, is that like but to get back to the Mafia Nanny, what is that like? Because you come into something blind and then people are like, you're in this and this is crazy and it's wild. And like it must be so surreal to you though, like that like you don't even know what I'm not saying you had an idea, maybe. I don't know if you
No,
did
I
or
had no idea. So I'm going to tell you something, okay? There are a few projects that I have done, both indie and not indie, that I had no idea what I was in. And that's just real talk. And it's probably because, I'm a 90s kid. So I know what I like and I know what the genres that I hang out in. I love comic books, I enjoy watching 80s movies. I like all of that. And so my daughter, who is a huge gamer, will educate me. So I'll tell you, there's a game called Path to Nowhere, and I'm in that game. I play a character named Lysandra. I had no idea that was a popular game. I had no clue. My daughter was like, people know what that game is. And I'm like, your mother does not. I'm like, so I got cast as this character. Apparently I was talking to other characters that are already in the game, that are established. No clue. Had no idea. So as far as I'm concerned, everyone's new. So when it came out and I saw people were doing like fan art, I was like, oh, okay. Like I get it. That's just how I am. I don't know. I don't know anything. I remember Fashugi Yugi was like one of my favorite anime. Like back in the day, I loved Escaflowne. Like I'm dating myself, but like all of those animes, back in the day, I loved. And now we have all of this. We have animes that are like with the longest titles ever. Like I got run over by a car, turned into a slime, got beat up by a vending machine. Now I'm divorced, living in another world with cornbread. I don't know. Just stuff like that. It's just like those long titles. And it's like, what is happening? So I don't know what I don't know. So it happens a lot. And I'm in Hunt Showdown's probably my biggest game so far that I've been in. I've been in it twice now. We just had a trailer drop a couple of weeks ago for the new event that's just started. It's called Devil's Trail, 1896 Devil's Trail. And they had a trailer that's out right now on YouTube where I play Red Raven. And there's another character called One Who Flies, played by the amazing Joey Sorless. I love him to death. But when we went into that, we just had a script. There wasn't a video. I had no clue what was happening. Like no clue. But I've always known that Hunt Showdown was a big deal because I did the voice of Felis during Desolation's Wake back in 2024. And I had no idea that people liked that game and it was so popular. So I go into every job saying, I love acting and I'm going to get paid so I can pay a bill. Because that's what I need it. Mama's got to buy eggs. I do this full time, and when it's announced and they're like, "Oh, this is cool. You're this, and this," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure."
So since we're talking about games now, obviously with Hunt Showdown, obviously you were fellas, and then when you came in probably, and that was I think around 2024 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was with Desolation Wake. I think was her event.
Obviously, coming into the next one, you must have had an idea that this game's popular, though. The second round with Red Raven, you had to know it.
I know. Well, at that point, what's just so interesting too, because like I've never played it ever. I've never played it. My experience with video games is like Life is Strange, Sims 4, and Power World. So Life is Strange Reunion is coming out in a couple of days. And yes, I pre-ordered it, and yes, I will be playing it. But yeah, like the other games, like my daughter tried to get me into Once Human, and I like it, but it scares the crap out of me. Like I have too many jump scares So like I have issues playing things where zombies are trying to eat me. Now, it's hypocritical because I love zombie movies. I'm a big I was a big George Romero fan, and I loved Night of the Living Dead. I love I hated Land of the Living Dead. I love Diary of the Dead, like all the other zombie movies. I love Train to Busan, Zombieland. But when you put me in a video game, I don't like the zombie universe anymore because I can't handle it emotionally. So Hunt Showdown is a zombie game set in a dystopian Old West. Like it is terrifying. So no. So I knew it was popular, but I didn't know why because it terrifies me. So yeah, even with Red Raven, I mean, I knew that a lot of people were going to be playing that event because they've been pretty loyal. What I want to say they've been around for like 9 years, maybe. Maybe the game's 9 years old. I have to look into that. Don't quote me on that. But I did know that there are a lot of like die-hard fans, and even Post Malone actually is involved in Hunt Showdown. So I knew it was a big deal, but like, yeah, when you're just doing your lines as an actor, you don't know what's going on. Like I have no idea. Like absolutely no idea. I literally when I was doing Felis's lines, because she did them as journal entries, I'm saying a lot of stuff and it sounds like I know what I'm talking about, but I'm an actor. I have no clue. I have very little knowledge of what's happening in the story because I don't play the game. So, yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong here. And I mean, for my interviews that I've done with a bunch of other voice actors, when you're in a show, it could be that if you're only in, 3 episodes, or you only have 3 lines in, certain episodes, you might be booked for an hour and you might do all 3 episodes, and it doesn't, and you could record in any order. But what also some of these people have said to me is that sometimes the video games, you're almost reading it just in a straight script down.
Yep.
Essentially, versus anime that like Crunchyroll. I mean, I think I'm right in this, and if I'm not, well, somebody will correct me. Is that if the episode didn't come to you yet, you might not be able to record it because it didn't come yet. Does that make any sense? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. We'll use a show that you were in. My life as the healer. In the shadows. If you're in 4 episodes of that, but only one of the episodes came out, you can't record episode 2 if you're in that show if it didn't come to you yet. Versus in a video game that all your lines are already done, so you could just read the whole thing in 3 hours, essentially.
Yeah, it's true. It depends on if they get the materials from Japan. And that's all that production stuff. They all handle like that time coding and writing and script approval, all that stuff. But yeah, if it's not ready for us to record, we generally, you're just going to come back. I mean, I have a character that hopefully this is how I am as an actor. As long as I wasn't recast, knock on wood. I have a character that's in 2 episodes of a popular series that's airing on Netflix and not released yet. And I think we had to go back because they were changing the script a lot. And that happens a lot. So like, you just never know. Even when you have a script, they may say, oh, we want to go a different direction, or we want to take this way. And then you come in and you re-record. And it can be time consuming. But sometimes you can go in for a character that has a lot of lines, maybe in 1 episode only, and knock it out in like 20 minutes. It just really depends. They try to schedule you for like a max lot of time, knowing that you may not need all of that time. But sometimes you do. It's better safe than sorry, basically. That's how they look at it.
I know in video games, it's like sometimes somebody just, I mean, if you're doing Resident Evil and you're Leon Kennedy, you're going to need multiple sessions. If it's
absolutely. I mean, I think you probably need they're recording that for over a year anyway, because they do motion capture and stuff like that. So that's a whole different process than, a mobile game that's already out.
I had Brittany Cox on, and she did motion capture for the WWE games. So 2K WWE. So that was crazy. She did like motion capture for like the facial recognitions of Nikki Bella, which I thought was really funny. She was like showing it on camera. It was really a funny interview because I'm a huge WWE fan. Or for those who don't know. But the point that I'm making is that but that's the thing, is that it's a script, and also video game recording can be very different, because if you're in a fighting game, they're going to make you record a punch when you're super strong, when you're medium strong, when you're weak, when you're dying on your deathbed and you're about to be finished. and you hope that your player can come back in and will their way to, I don't know.
Oh yeah, the death rattles. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, been down
So,
that road.
and that
Been
could just
down that road.
destroy your voice. It could just destroy your voice.
Oh yeah, well, and that's a really good point. My very first video games ever was what was it called? Heroes of New Earth, I think it was called. And nobody told me, like, because I had never done fighting games at that point. And so nobody told me I was going to be doing we call them efforts. No one said that I was going to be doing efforts. So like I was just kind of thrown in. I had to sing in that. I mean, it was crazy. Like it was just crazy. I had two characters. I was Guan Yin, and then like Valkyrie had a skin called Beach Babe Valkyrie. So I was Beach Babe Valkyrie, and I had to sing in that one too. But like I was throwing my umbrella at people, so you had to have efforts for throwing an umbrella and getting stabbed. It was a process. And what's different for that game is that you recorded by yourself. There wasn't a director. Because they were, half of them were I think in the Philippines. They were producing and working on the game. So like they would just send me a script and I would have to do all of it and then send it back, even the efforts, even though I have no idea what's going on. So that was a learning process for me. But yes, for Path to Nowhere, we were actually like basically in a session. So it was me, the studio that we were working through, their director, and then of course the actual client themselves that handle Path to Nowhere had their representative on. So we're going down the script because it was literally going down the script, but they would say, "What do you think of this line?" And they would say, "Oh, try it this way." So you've got feedback in that session, whereas that didn't really happen. I think that was a 2-hour session, but it didn't really happen with some of the other projects. I think that's another good thing, another good and challenging thing with indie is that sometimes you do record all of it by yourself, which can be great if you have a good idea and you like understand what the creator wants, but it can also kind of be a detriment because what if you don't? Because then you're just going to have to go back and do it all again. So it could be a little challenging if you're not having a live direction session and an indie.
There's a saying in Kickstarter comics that, and it's always controversial, and there's always a debate on it. Every indie comic needs an editor, and whether that's a spell check editor, but more along the lines of a story editor, because it can only help you if somebody's looking at it from a story visual point. Now, I think in anime and voice acting in general, I think an editor is not an editor, but it's feedback. It's a director. Somebody going over and saying, this is not going to make sense in the story. This is going to sound disingenuous. Or this is perfect. Let's go throw this in there because this is there's something here that's going to change the nature of the game and make it better. And so having a second pair of eyes is helpful. Or an editor. We could call it whatever we want. We could call it the overseer. I don't know what we want to call it. I mean, I don't know what we call it in Marvel, but the overseer, the person watching down, maybe Stan Lee. I don't know. We could put a lot of things in there. But I digress. But I do want to talk about another anime before we dive into some other stuff. And that is Jetta Tales of the Toshagawa.
Yes, that's kind of a webcomic animation. And Jetta yes, I play. Yeah, that was that one's done by Martheus and Janet Wade and it's the Toshagawa universe. And I love this story. I was so happy that I got to voice Jetta because and not just because she's a lead, but because she gotta react the way I would react. So picture a woman who has a destiny to be a chosen one, who has to fight her father, who basically is Voldemort. And she's the entire time saying, I don't want to do this. Why do I have to do this? Why can't someone else do this? Why is it got to be me? Why do I have to train all the time? She's like the reluctant hero. And that would totally be me. I'm like, I don't want to do this today. Make it somebody else's responsibility. But yeah, I really love Jetta. She's badass, but she's unintentionally badass. She just is. She's just badass, but not wanting to be. And it's just so over it. I love it so much. But yeah, he created this entire universe like 25 years ago. And so, we have Shinobi Ninja Princess, which is the prequel. And then where we are now in Jetta, we're starting the webcomic where we're in America because it started completely in Japan and then we transitioned to America. But we have an amazing cast. Martheus and Janet are just amazing. Even their son Anakin helps with the project. So like it's a family, affair, but everybody knows their characters. If you have any questions about anything in the story, then they're there. I could literally call him. I could get him on the phone and be like, I'm so confused. Can you explain this to me? And he will talk about it, and he will give you, like, he gives you little pictures, like backstory. We had a whole treatment of our characters before we even did the first episode. And we just started, we're actually in the process of episode 2 now. So but yeah, it's been very cool. It's one of my favorite projects, honestly.
So what is that like to be spoiled in a project? That's the only way I could say it. Right?
It's true though, because it's so true. I mean, because there aren't other projects unless you are on the creative team that you have that much interaction with the creators. It's just truth. I'm not saying that there aren't creators that are willing to work, and especially with indie projects, but like, when you have something that's established, this is an established comic series, that's been around for 20 plus years, so they're just taking it to the next level. But they've had fans, and they go to conventions, they've been to Comic-Con, they've talked about this series for years, and then this baby that's so protective, they're letting you into it. And that's, to me, that's very special. So yes, I do feel spoiled, but I feel really honored to be a part of it. And yeah, I mean, honestly, as somebody who likes to create things, I have a series that I'm creating right now, and I'm very protective. So I'm like, Martheus, I don't know how you do it, because I'm like, no, slap on the hand. But yeah, he really, when we auditioned, he I guess he saw something in us and all of these characters, and he made his decision, and we essentially are where we need to be. And he's just a very good leader in terms of his vision. And his wife too. I love Janet. Janet's amazing. So yeah.
And then to talk about the other one that's a big deal, and this one is interesting to say the least. I Married a Monster on the Hill.
They're a very popular like creative team. They do very cool like indie movies. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't know the story. And I'm going to tell you why. I know there's a trailer out. You can see the trailer. I only got my parts. I recorded my lines. So I play, basically, I play young Wagner, who's like a lead character, the young version of him. Then I play him as a baby. And then I play his young daughter as a toddler. So I play the 3 children. I can't tell you anything else outside of that. It has not been released yet. So I have no idea what the entirety of this story is about.
All I know is that I see a lot of stuff on it every time I look into it. And I'll just say it this way, is that it's 18 plus. I see there's a lot of things going on.
There's alcohol. I know that. I keep seeing alcohol bottles. There's definitely alcohol involved in some point. So
I feel there's some sexual tension in there. I feel there's a lot of stuff in there. It's definitely adult. I mean, I have no, I don't even know what the hell's going on, to be honest, either.
I don't know, but I know it's very, if you look at the trailer, there's a lot of tension in the trailer. So something is going on. And so if you look at it, I mean, it has Dad Detox in the title. So I'm assuming it's an intervention for alcoholism, but that is me as a fan, not as somebody who has any info at all as an actor in it on what the plot is.
I just know that apparently it has a following. People are really interested in this.
Yes,
I'm not exactly sure why. I don't know what the hell's going on. I just know that it's supposedly supposed to be a big deal.
I know that it's based. I think these characters were in there. So I Married a Monster on the Hill is actually a very popular series that they created. And so this is the spin-off movie. And I think they've had other spin-off movies too that did really well. So yeah, this is another one where the indie creators just got really popular, and their series is, has a lot of fans. So yeah.
There's a lot.
I'm happy to be a part of it. That's how, just happy to be a part of it.
And then obviously you're just in a bunch of other stuff. One of my favorite shows that you did, I think some minor character, was The Assassin Who Exceeds the Hero Skills. I love that show. Yeah. I just love that show for
Yeah,
Basically,
I do a lot of utility characters, especially with Crunchyroll now because I just came back. So we call them bits. I think I explained that earlier. So basically, like an episodic character, or maybe either has a name or doesn't, or just does something. So I have a lot of those. I just went in recently this week or last week, sorry, for another one that's coming out next month. But
so
like,
let me ask you this,
mhm,
because I feel, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but you're almost cutting, your teeth, and you're doing your reps, and you're in the mix, right? And,
mhm,
and I think this is one way. So I equate it to wrestlers on the indies. You have to do a bunch of matches to get noticed and to be in the mix. Because, and Drew McIntyre, who's one of the top guys at WWE, he said that he was in the locker room and he would walk past Vince McMahon, and maybe if you walk past Vince McMahon, Vince, was running the WWE for a while, he would say, golly gee, this guy looks like a superstar. Let's put him in the title match. I don't know
yeah,
how to do Vince's voice per se when Vince McMahon was the owner and running the WWE, but the point is that if you're in the building and you're doing voice work, you might just somehow I got the perfect role for you, right?
yeah.
Because if you're not in the game or anywhere even near the game, how can you be cast in something else? And so,
Well,
like, I
yeah,
don't know how
yeah.
you feel about that, but like that's how I view it: is that you have to be in the game to even be considered to be moved up and get a role. And even if you're doing a bit here, a bit there, or a minor character here or there, you're in the game and you're in the system, for lack of a better word. I don't know. I could be completely wrong here, but I think
No, 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 it's true. So like I said, I started originally. I'm in a weird situation because I started at Funimation in 2004, so that was over 20 years ago. So all the directors that I had, I worked a lot with a really great director named Chris Bevins. I had another one named Chris Kaysen. We worked a lot together. I started back when this was prior to a lot of the directors that are in Crunchyroll now. I look at it as two universes. My universe was Funimation. I'm new to Crunchyroll, but I'm not new to Funimation. So I'm considered old school with Funimation, but new with Crunchyroll, even though Crunchyroll and Funimation are kind of merged. It's a very weird situation, but it just is what it is. So, like, yeah, a lot of directors don't know me very well. And, there's so many people now. When I started with Funimation, we had maybe 60 people that I know that were rotating in and out, and probably maybe 100 maybe on the roster. I don't know. It was not what it is now. It is exploded now.
I mean,
So
let's
there's
go through the
so many
OGs.
people.
I'll name some OGs. Rob McCullum,
Mhm.
Justin Long, I think was there, right?
Yep.
I think Marina Palencia was early.
Yeah, I did a lot of Wallace sessions with her and Leah Clark. So
Yeah,
back in the day.
so Barry Yandel's been around.
Yep.
John Grimlin,
Yep.
Brian Mattis is another one. Austin Tyndall, Elizabeth Maxwell is more newer in the system. A newer one is Brittany Lauda. She's new to the scene, much more. Danny Chambers is newer to the scene. But
Yeah.
like the old school, individuals, they're there. I mean
Oh
that's
yeah.
old
Some
school.
of them are still there. Some of them are coming from Houston because we had Monica Real come up a lot. Sammy Inoue Hart, who I don't think does anime anymore, but she was in and out. We had people coming in that would come in for conventions and would work. I know Carrie Savage was in a few shows. I mean, I got to hang out with all of these people, so I was really good friends with Kevin Conley, who was in Full Metal Alchemist. So like we had a like it's basically two worlds. I hung out with a lot of the people from the old one. I'm still friends with some of them today. I love Clarine Hart. I love Wendy Powell. Like a lot of these people that I still can associate with. And then we have the newer crowd, and there are some people, and for me it's cool because a lot of them are my daughter's age. So so it's like I'm kind of like in the middle. So it's like I am an actor who will say her age because I've lost a lot of people in my life. And so any age that I get to is, to me, a milestone. So I will be 50 years old. Even though I don't look it, I will be 50 years old in December. My daughter will be 30 years old in September. Now, most
I
voice
would have
actors
guessed
will.
way wrong on that.
Yeah.
I would
Oh,
have guessed
everyone does. I
yeah.
think that's what helps me with my career is that I don't look and sound like my age, but I will be 50 in December. And so because I live on that line, I call it the equator of what the heckness. You know, I live in the older world and I also live in the newer world. And thanks to my daughter, I'm very acclimated now a lot to the newer world because she never stops talking about it. So, you know, she's kind of like, if I'm like, I don't understand that, she's like, oh, mom, you're old. And she'll just like start explaining it to me. But it's just what it is. She brought Monster Hunter into my life. I forgot that's one of the ones I like playing. I like Monster Hunter, which is kind of interesting for someone like me who likes Life is Strange and Pal World. But um, you know, it's just what it is. But
See,
yeah,
it's interesting, right? And I'll say
yeah.
this, and I might be entering dangerous territory, but I'm 33, right?
Mhm.
So I'm around your daughter's age. And so, but like I know all this old school anime, I know all this new school anime, and like I'm a unique breed on that front because I love stuff from the 1960s in anime, like Astro Boy, Black and White
Oh,
Astro Boy. I go deep. I
yeah,
go
that's deep. That is deep.
I'm a Tezuka fan. I'm a huge Tezuka fan. I know a lot about him, and but like I also know all this new school stuff, right? So it's like Odd Taxi. But what I find is that like it's so interesting when we talk about video games and anime is that it used to be, and I don't know how you feel about this. You needed to watch like the big three. So you needed, if you were a guy, it was like Dragon Ball Z. It was
Yep.
Yu Yu Hakusho. It was maybe Zoids, Outlaw Star, some Gundam stuff. You do
Cowboy Bebop was like a really big one.
that's a big one. And then
Yeah.
go fast forward into 2008, 2009, Code Geass and Double O, Gundam Double O were huge. And Full
Yeah.
Metal Alchemist, Brotherhood, like all that stuff. And now, like I go to an anime con just as a fan, or I'm doing a fan panel for a free ticket because I started doing that because I was a broke college kid. And if you speak for an hour, you get a free ticket, and it's great for 3 days. Oh, what a great deal that was, you know. But the idea is that now like these kids like they don't even know Dragon Ball Z. It's wild. It shocks me, and they don't know like all this old school anime, and they're watching some weird stuff, and I'm like, how did you never see like Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood? Like, what's wrong with you? Like that's my response to that. Like,
Well, yeah, and there are some in my generation that do, especially with Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball seems to have aged to a point where everyone seems to love Dragon Ball. But there's one show that I will always bat my head against the wall that I don't understand why people don't know, and that is Martian Successor Nadesco. That was one of the best animes, especially like for me. I want to say it was released like in 2005 in the States, but I think it came out a little earlier, probably the late 90s. But like that series was like gold star for me because it was insane. I mean, it had everything I loved. It had Mecha. We're in space. We have a fleet of people that really, for the most part, seem like they don't know what they're doing, but we're surprisingly competent, you know, and we're able to negotiate treaties and like keep each other alive. And it's like, how, you know, but like that was such an amazing comedic and very well acted, you know, dub. And when I mention it to people, sometimes they're like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "What?" No, the
this,
Desco.
this, this is what shocks me. The anime that shocks me that people don't know is Death Note.
Oh yeah. That
That to me is shocking, and even Code Geass as well. And like it just blows my mind because those are two amazing shows, but more so Death Note, where Death Note is just a beautifully complicated anime, and it's only like 37 episodes. It's not even that big of a show, and I'm just like, how do you not know it? But like, there's all this good stuff that people don't know. And then, have you ever been at an anime con and you tell somebody, and then you see them like a year later, and they're like, dude, you were right on that show. Like I've had that happen a few times. It's like, how did I not see this show? Right? Like, that just
Well, I
happened.
did that with the Desco. I actually have it all on DVD. So I like start showing it to people. I'm like, you need to watch this box set and then tell me what you think.
It's just terrible. Like it just happened with me with Psychopaths. I
Mm.
completely missed Psychopaths, and then I watched. I'm like, this is brilliant. This is absolute brilliant. And how did I miss this when it came out? And then I'm speaking to like 10 people, and they're like, "What's Psychopaths?" I'm like, I just have to leave. I just have to leave now. It's terrible, but I digress on the joke. But obviously, because it's like the whole sector has changed
Yes.
just on what people consume and how they consume it, and it's mind blowing to me because I am 33 and I've been
Mhm.
watching anime since I was 7. So, like, I've seen it in real time over the amount of time you've been in the industry. It's like I've seen it, and it just blows my mind. In
Yeah,
those,
but I mean, you also have to look at it how generations change because I don't listen to, well, I do, but I wasn't a biggest fan of my parents' music, you know, and now my daughter's not a fan of my music, and so I grew again in the '90s, so we had grunge music, and we had, you know, we had like I was talking to her about Smashing Pumpkins, and she's like, "The heck is that?" You know, I'm like, "Yeah,
oh,
okay."
see, that's so
So
weird. I'm like a huge fan of my parents' music.
yeah,
Like,
but so many, but if you think about some of the things, like even down to TV shows, you know, we're always meant to have our own evolution, and then we're meant to have children that tell us that we're old. And that's what I that's what I've come to understand is that back in the day I would do the same thing to my mother that my daughter is now doing to me. So
that's,
it makes sense that the show, the anime that I would watch would be a question mark in her vocabulary. The only thing that she ever got that she liked from me, where there were, I think there were two. One was Macross 7 because I used to make fun of Macross 7 a lot because again I'm also a mega fan, but I used to trip on Macross 7 all the time. And then Sailor Moon because I got her into Sailor Moon, but I got her into the real Sailor Moon, not into the, I say not the CW, the Uranus and Neptune are cousins Sailor Moon. I got her into the actual Sailor Moon. But yeah, outside of that, yeah, she has her own stuff. She tells me she was watching something called Chainsaw Man, and I know that's really big. I think at Crunchyroll I've seen it. I've never seen the show, so I don't know what it's about. But um, she was really into that, and you know, she just kind of does her own thing. Now, I will say something that is also translated through time though is Miyazaki films because I love Miyazaki films, and now my daughter loves Miyazaki. And I don't really know a lot of people that do not like Miyazaki. And as a voice actor, I would love to be in a Miyazaki film.
it's
But
interesting. It's interesting you bring it up, right?
yeah,
Because we look at stuff that's translated over. I think we have stuff. Obviously, Studio Ghibli in general has translated over
yes,
very well. Some more than others. Some more
yeah,
than others. You know. But like Whisper of the Heart, I think is okay. But like Spirited Away is amazing. Howl's Moving Castle. I mean, Nausicaa, Mononoke,
Mononoke
Porco
is amazing.
Rosso.
Howl's Moving
Oh,
Castle is my favorite, but yeah, I definitely love Spirited Away. My Neighbor Totoro is another one that I love.
It's like the only movie that doesn't have a villain. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, only movie that just doesn't have a. It just has
Well,
like
no, Kiki's Delivery Service didn't really have one either. It was more of a coming to age, figure
that
out your own
is
stuff
true.
type. Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. But I mean, I love Kiki's Delivery Service as well. I
Yeah.
went to the fun one, fun one.
They're fun. Yeah.
But like then we have things like Shinkai and Hasoda that also really pick up where Miyazaki has left off and are in his vein too. But like it's so interesting because very few things have translated over. But there's
Yeah.
some good stuff like in the 80s that's solid. I mean, there's just some good stuff out there. But again, I mean, it's complicated. It's complicated. But I get it. But I do want to talk about something else that you
Sure.
are. And how do you feel about Ethan? That's what I want to know.
But Ethan. Oh, yeah. Ethan, poor little boy. Yeah, so he didn't get eaten by a deer, so that's a good thing. Like, what can you say? I mean, okay. I mean, it was a Halloween special. So, basically, Wolf and Magpie Media they made this entire like Halloween series where, um, every story was like a horror story. It was really well done. I loved it a lot. And I got cast as this really cute little 10-year-old named Ethan. And he's basically, they're going to a Halloween party. They were told by their mother to never go into the woods. And see, this is where this is where I'm going to say, always listen to your parents when they tell you not to go in the woods or somewhere like that, because there's a reason, even if they don't tell you, just don't do it. But they did it. And of course, there's a cryptid in the woods, and my character gets dragged off by the cryptid. And at first, honestly, I thought I was going to die too. But stuff happens and it gets resolved in case you want to listen to it. But like, yeah, that was fun. And that's another example of me recording lines without knowing exactly what was going to happen in the story. Because we didn't have, this was audio based. So I didn't know how the other actors were going to be. I didn't know, like, I just basically based Ethan on what I would be like if I was him being attacked by the cryptid. And I just kind of went from there. But it was fun. It was fun. It was really fun. I just love stories like that. I love horror stories. I have a bunch of like scary stuff coming out probably the next few months that I've done. And I'm super excited because even though I'm a coward in video games, I still love horror stuff. So I do like voicing in horror things. So I'm kind of excited about that. But yeah, little Ethan, he survived. Did he? Maybe question mark.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Obviously, I mean, you have a bunch of roles that we didn't even touch upon. You're in a bunch of different shows. You got a bunch of other stuff going on. You got a bunch of
Yeah.
movies going on.
Well, my very first show ever at Funimation was Case Closed. And I played a small character named Natsumi. She they thought she was a killer, but she wasn't a killer from what it's been so long. That was a long time ago. But yeah, I remember that one. And then the second one that I ever did was Child's Toy. Or Kodocha, basically, where I played a character named Mika. And she looks just like Sana. She has two other sisters, and they are obsessed with Sana to the point where they will even try to do her rap songs. And the very first session I ever had with that, like I walked in and the rap music was playing, and I was like, "What?" Like, because I mean, I hadn't heard it, so I was like, "Oh, so we're doing it." So that's something about voice acting that you have to get over, is that you can be thrown into situations that you are not prepared for, but you got to make it work somehow. So yeah, that happens a lot.
And then obviously, I mean, as I stated, you've been in a lot of stuff. There's stuff that obviously is coming out, on your
I have a
resume.
lot. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff
what
coming out.
NDA stands for. There's 3 NDAs on your resume.
Yeah, so NDA means shush, I can't talk about, and you can't know what it is till they're released.
I started to use that joke so badly for forever.
NDA just means shush. That's what it means. It means shut your mouth.
I thought it was
stop
funny.
and assist.
I thought it was funny how you put it on your resume. I'm mine, and then it's just there. And there's 3 spots, and like I thought it was funny, right? I have a very dark sense of humor, right? So I thought it was very funny. So it's like
it's my way of saying there's stuff here, you just can't know about it yet. But it's coming. Funny. It's coming. Well, because I have a project that I worked on, God, a year and a half ago. It's still not released. I was in a video game that never got released. It was called Space Noir, and I was so upset because it's such a good. If you are a Firefly fan, it had so many Firefly elements to this game, and I played a character that was a young version of what River would be in that series. I was heartbroken when they decided they were not going to finish that game. But I at least, even now, I mean, I have the credit for it. I still, they have the trailer up, so I still have that. But that happens too as a voice actor. You'll fall in love with a project and it may fall through, and that happens a lot. Or you could be in something and then you're recast. So I never announce anything, even without an NDA, until I hear myself in it, because I don't want to be that person saying, "Oh, I did this character," and then it's not me, because you just don't know. You never know till it comes out. So they don't normally 9 times out of 10, it's very rare that they will tell you you're recast. You find out when everyone else like finds out, and you're just like, "Oh, okay." And it may not be something that you did wrong. They could have just been like, "Oh, we decided to change the age of the character, or maybe change how this character comes across. And now you no longer fit that character." So you just don't know until it's released. So that's why you'll see NDA. So most of the time I signed an NDA, and then sometimes it's because I don't want to announce it because I don't know if I'm still in it. So until I see myself or hear myself, that's what it is.
I just thought it was funny that you put it there. And that's all I was saying. Because I have a dark sense of humor, and what I find funny is not what other people find funny, but I thought it was funny. But I digress right there. But I do want to back out of your career, and I do want to talk about some other stuff, obviously. And I'm curious where you feel the industry is going, because there's a lot of stuff that has changed. Yes. Obviously, we have better software, we have better microphones, we have more anime. I'll say the dirty word here. We have AI that's now involved in all this. Both good and bad. It's a complicated issue because whenever you start bringing in new technology and new technology advancements, it's always complicated. There's ethical questions with it as well. There's a variety of other stuff, but like, and also we touched on this also where there's now remote recordings, meaning that you don't have to be in Texas to be in a Crunchyroll show per se. I don't know the full extent, and I don't want to. That's not the land of the law or the law of the land per se, but in theory, you could be anywhere in the world and record now because things have changed in that regard. So I'm just curious how you feel where all this is going because I would say in the last 5 years, 6 years, massive change that has shaken up the industry massively. I think.
Yeah, that's a good question. So when it comes to AI, it's always a question mark because so many people are moving towards AI. And right now, I do know that with the union like SAG and I'm in NAVA, they do a really good job of basically advocating for our rights as voice actors and as talent. Because yes, technology is always going to shift. Technology is always going to evolve. But normally when it evolves, it doesn't take away from the humanity of the project. So for instance, if you're going to work and you had a really bad day and you came home and you wanted to vent to your partner or your friends or whoever, you expect to have somebody human to react to that reacts and gives you empathy. But in the reality that we're heading towards, you're heading home to speak to an AI. Basically,
It,
somebody
it,
who just says, "Oh yeah, it's great. What do you think?"
it's complicated. I was at a conference, and the humanistic element of AI is getting really complicated. So I work in
Yeah.
that digital accessibility component, right, in
Mhm.
that sector. So digital accessibility is very complicated. There's obviously AI is entering that, but there's bias of AIs. There's lack of bias. There's also lack of human components, and this human centric AI thing is a real complicated thing going on
Yeah.
because if I need the color contrast on the photo to be right, I don't need a human centric component with
No.
that. I just need it to tell me it's right or wrong. But also, when we're building AI fixes and you're dealing with a digital accessibility document, there is some human elements that they need to, and it's really complicated with the AI space because they're trying to figure out how to get those humanistic components in. And they're sometimes doing really well with it, and sometimes they're missing, but it's a nightmare. Because this hasn't been done before, and it's kind of like shooting in the dark. But it's
Yeah.
also, but also there's other stuff where it's like you go and you order your food at McDonald's and you're speaking into it. I mean, this is where it gets all complicated with this whole AI thing. But I also know that a lot of voice actors are really concerned.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, because there aren't any protections. There's nothing to stop anyone from taking your voice. And I'm LGBTQ plus, so I'm in an LGBT marriage. I'm also a POC. So like when you put that in perspective, somebody could take my voice, like even from our video, and then make me say anti-LGBT and racist and whatever else comments they would like out in the open and just for anybody to see, and it will sound like I'm saying it. And there's nothing to stop that from happening. And that to me is scary because we already have deep fakes with AI where people are making videos and putting people in it situations. And a lot of people, like, I'm going to be real, I'm not an artist. So unless I see six fingers, I sometimes don't know if something is completely AI or not. Sometimes there's a tell because you can feel the lack of humanity, but some people are really, really good. And it's really hard to figure out, is this AI? Is this surveillance video they have? Is this real? I don't know how to tell the difference. And that to me is a
We could
problem.
test this right now. We could test this right now. We could play a game. So I'm a huge wrestling fan. So I'll ask you the question: is that AI or not?
I will feel well, I want to say AI only because of his underarms, his pits look weird, but then that could just be an art style. So,
So this was drawn by a person.
oh, was it? Those
Yeah,
armpits
yeah.
are are
He's a
interesting.
Japanese artist who does this stuff, leaf metal. It's obviously John Cena,
Mhm.
and it's not AI, right? But you don't know, right? I mean,
I can't tell.
it's
Yeah.
an anime super cool style, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. You know, you got the artist, the Japanese artist, but then you have something like this, right? Same question, right?
Yeah.
Where the question becomes that is this AI or not? And this is where we're heading, right? And this is because you're bringing up a great point. But we could also then drop this where this right here is not AI, right? We all agree that this is an AI. It's a picture of Sammy Vaucaire, who's a wrestler. It's not AI. It's a photo of her, and it's an autographed photo card of hers. So like, but I think the point is being made, right?
Yeah.
Is that you didn't know if the first thing I showed you was AI or not.
I can't tell because I don't have the eye for that. So I don't know what is real and what, and so many people are like me.
But you're
And in
perfect.
my
You're perfect for the question, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because if you're the average person and you're seeing it, you could say this looks cool, right? That's not
yeah,
the question. The question is that is it AI or not?
yeah,
I'm going to take an assumption here. I am not an AI bot. It's pretty clear that I'm not an AI bot for a lot of reasons. You know, my speech patterns don't dictate that this is AI as I'm speaking to you, and I don't think you're AI either because we're having a
no,
humanistic conversation, you know. But at the same time, I've seen some pretty, you know, things that you can tell after 20 minutes they're AI, but not in the first 5 minutes on YouTube.
no.
It
Eventually, yeah, sometimes you'll start seeing that speech kind of gets kind of robotic or like I call hooked on phonics type, spacing in words. But yeah, it's just it's difficult. And then also as an actor, we already see that companies like Amazon Prime are trying to release fully AI anime. Well, if that evolves and catches on, then I'm out of work in that sector because there's no reason to hire me when they can do everything in house. There's not going to pay an actor outside of that. So we're pretty much out of work. And that is a problem because AI is supposed to be able to be an assistant, not to take your job. So, and I've been talking to a lot of people in the gaming, like, and I call it the gaming sphere. And a lot of them are kind of concerned too, because yes, they have AI tools, but there are some, and this all goes to corporations. This is a corporate level thing. This is not me, harping on anybody else. But when people want to reach a bottom line and exceed that bottom line, they cut corners and they will cut corners in the most devastating ways in terms of creativity, and that's happening a lot in the gaming world.
it's interesting because I have this debate with comics, and then what I say is I say, great, you hire a cover artist. That cover artist went from $400 to $800, and then this is why people go international.
Mhm.
Because in America, they say, I can't, pay you $800 for a cover on Kickstarter that, 2 years ago was $400. And then what happens is that, and then they go international, and then eventually, because somebody in Brazil can charge you $300, and $300 in Brazil goes a hell of a lot further than it does in America for that artist. And that artist could crank out 5 of these, make 1,500, works a day job, and that $1,500 is more like 5,000 in Brazil, and they're
Yeah.
happy to do it, and they work, and people find that they work harder, they're more gracious, that they're more accommodating, and they just bang this stuff out because the money just goes further, and they're more motivated to bang out work. But also, what's happened, and this is just my theory, is that it's a natural expectation that great, even those people are becoming more expensive. So people say, great, I can go make an AI cover and maybe, it kills creativity to a degree, but like it's a bottom line problem when prices keep rising is that, and it's a nightmare because it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's
Because
a circle. Because think about the same people that are saying this are the ones that are making the money in the end. Like these corporations that want to cut corners, they already have
I don't
money.
even think
You know what I mean? It's like it's
for the people in comics, I don't even think it's the money because they're all the indie people. They're saying,
oh
I
no,
can't,
well, Indie's different. But when I mean, I'm talking like
yeah.
the brand, like the box, store type brand comic places, the studios that are very household names.
So
But
I
like
don't think DC Comics is not doing AI for the most
yeah,
part.
I don't think they are. I don't know if Marvel
Marvel's not
is.
doing it
I
either.
I have no idea. See, I've been looking into that because I remember. So you had the DCs and you had the Marvels and you had the Image and the Dark Horse. So it's like you have all of these different studios making their content.
The
And for me, I kind of feel like they want to stay in house because, I mean, honestly, there's no point in having a comic book writer or an illustrator or anything if you're going to do it with AI. I mean, there's no point in having a studio. You can do everything online. You have no reason to even have an office. You can do everything from home in your underwear, and then, and then it's what it
but
is.
I don't even think
But
DC and Marvel want offices
no,
anymore. They don't want
well,
offices.
see, that's the thing. I'm wondering how that's going to affect, because when you go to a convention, for instance, say we'll go back to like anime convention, you're going to meet the actors that play these characters. You're not going to meet the characters. Yes, you're going to dress up or cosplay, but you want to meet the people that made that voice for that show that you like if you're into dubs. Sometimes if they have the international actor, if they have the Japanese or if there's Chinese or whatever, if they're there as a guest, you're there to meet that counterpart, that the person that brought that character to life for you. If that went away, the only thing you would go to conventions to see is each other dressed as those characters. You wouldn't have that human component. You wouldn't have that person with the funny stories about how they recorded this or what the motivation behind this was, because an AI is not going to tell you, oh, I passed out screaming for 10 minutes in the booth, because that's never going to happen. It's just weird, and I feel that way with every genre. I feel like if you're going to be a fan of something, it's literally human creative side that you also have to respect, because that's how that concept was made. And AI didn't create this show. It didn't come up with these plot points. So when you're giving the AI more credit than due, I guess is a good way of putting it, it's kind of an insult to anybody on any level of creativity. And yeah, we're feeling it in the voiceover world. They're definitely feeling it in the gaming world. I mean, I talk to people all the time from every level, from marketing, to production, to like just product design, direct, all of it. They're all struggling in the market because of what's happening right now. So it's
it's
crazy.
complicated.
It is very complicated.
I've said this before, in which that. So for those who don't know, I had a rough year just in my eBay business where sales were down by 40%. For a lot of reasons. People are just money is more expensive to utilize. It is really what it comes down to. And people are also very scared. And also what wound up happening in 2025 from everybody who I spoke to on an indie comic level and also con levels and business levels is that they were uncertain of the future. So if you're uncertain of the future, you hold your money. And we're in a weird spot in society right now where money is tight. People don't know what things look like in their lives. And then on top of that, we have also technology evolving so rapid that how the hell do you react to this? And this isn't, because you have AI rising and nobody knows what the hell it's going to do. Nobody knows what the hell it's going to do. It could be good, bad, and different. It's going to be a mixture of all three, by the way. Sorry to spoil it, everybody. It's going to be a mixture of all three. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be different. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be good about it. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be complicated.
We're obviously going to have the Terminator soon, so it's fine.
Yeah. We're all screwed.
Totally going that direction. Well, yeah, I was seeing all those videos about the AIs that were meeting with each other in private chat rooms. And I'm like, what is happening?
There's a whole social network. I don't know if you saw this. It's the coolest thing to watch. These AI things are having conversations with each other on this private social network that has like 200 people also involved, and it's ultra fascinating. I mean, it's one of the coolest things if you're like a super nerd geek who likes this stuff like I do, right? But it's also really out there having conversations with each other. And like one like I watched the conversation, they were just talking about dogs, and you're like, like hey, it's like me and my friends, like, and like one of them was telling jokes to each other, and like I'm not saying the jokes were great, but it was easy to watch.
They're not great.
I'm sorry. I mean, it wasn't like a clever joke. It wasn't like an intellectual like Bill Burr joke, or it wasn't like Ada Wong doing her thing and like her Cobra baby mama jokes that are really funny. But it was still basic humor between the two AI bots, and you're like, it was almost like my niece who's 4 and her sister who's like 2.5 telling each other jokes. That's what it looked like. But it was great to watch it because you're like, man, this is infants telling each other jokes. It was great.
It's also scary because why are they doing that? You know what I mean? It's like, were they programmed to do that? Where I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. Self-learning technology, I think, does worry me a lot, because you never know what they just might get the inkling to try, you know? What would happen if I turned your security system off in your house, you know? What would happen? Let's just see. You know, it's crazy. Yeah, AI is scary. It's scary.
It's fascinating. I mean, look,
Yeah.
I'm a big AI guy. I have no problem admitting it. I'm really pro AI. I didn't say it's going to come for free, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have safeguards on it. But
Yeah.
I'm a big AI guy. I'm really big into it. I know a lot about it. I find it fascinating, and I think it will make my life better. I genuinely think. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong on it, and I'm not saying we should not think about it and slow down the brakes and put safeguards in. But I'm a
Yeah,
big A.
there definitely needs to be, because there's no oversight as far as I'm concerned. There's just not. Even down to like I have chronic illnesses, and I know that I had to sign a waiver recently, and it literally said on one of the lines that they would be utilizing AI technology to make diagnosis for my condition, and I'm like, what? No, you will not. Because I need to stay healthy, and I don't need a computer or a program telling me what I need to do for my disease, you know? So that to me is kind of challenging and question mark. So
I agree.
yeah.
I don't want an AI basically being my doctor, but at
And
the
yeah,
same
well, I
time,
think that's probably what my problem is. I know that AI is going to be put into certain skills and jobs that are going to be used as an asset, but I do think that some things it should not be a part of. And I think that it's up to leadership to understand the difference, and that is where we're running into a problem.
I'm glad you're optimistic.
Yep.
I'll be really honest with you. I'm very pessimistic. I don't think I don't think half of government, and this is me being very optimistic, has any clue on AI. I think the people in Congress and in the Senate, I think if you found 10% who had a real clue on both sides of the aisle, because I don't think this is Republican, Democrat, have a real understanding of this. I think that's not saying there's not smart people.
Yeah.
In
Well, I
government.
will say Nava has been basically going to Washington and
I'm
basically
sure.
talking about AI and kind of campaigning for protections for a very long time. They do it religiously, and that's why I love them so much. They're out there fighting for rights.
I'll put it this
And
way.
so
In my world, I'm a big fan of NVIDIA, and I've spent like the last 3 years learning a lot about AI, and I'm beginning to have an understanding of it. And this is me as somebody who doesn't code, who has a basic understanding of it. So if it took me 3 years to get in a good semblance and a good foundation, I highly doubt. I'm not expecting anybody else who has spent like hours, I mean hundreds of hours, because I find it fascinating, right? And I find it a hobby, right? I find it really interesting. I'm not expecting the average American to be an expert on this.
yeah.
I'm a rational human being. But I'm also understand a realist here, where I'm all for protections, right? But I also think a lot of people have no idea. But I digress. That's just how I view it. I could talk about this for the next 10 hours and not be bored. Everybody would be bored with this. I digress. I was just curious about what you thought, because you're in this space and I'm
Yeah.
looking in, and I have an opinion that is very different, just as a collective and as an overall. But
Yeah.
not specifics. But I was just curious what you think, because
Well, no,
obviously,
that's supposed to be the beauty of our country, or it was. We should be able to have these conversations and come at it at different perspectives and still find something, relatable, and that's the way that should work. And so I'm not going to be a person that says, hey, AI is going to go away, because I know that's not true. I mean, technology evolves all the time. When my mother was young, she probably never even imagined a Blu-ray player was going to be in her future. So, that is a whole other level, of technology shifts. So, and then maybe for them that was scary. My mother came from an age, she was born in Scotland. They didn't get their TVs until she was like 18. And so, the first ever television was when she was 18 years old. So, and
I mean,
here
look,
we're born into technology, so it's like a completely different
you
thing. So
I'm 33
mhm.
and your daughter's 30. So she went through what I went through, which is we went from analog to streaming digital music, right? Just in
Mhm.
that position where I was at the back end of analog essentially and radio to CDs. So I don't think cassettes were ever a real thing in my world, but CDs were, and now it's all digital music, right?
Yep.
And so it's and that's scary. And it's very scary, but it's not a bad thing. I mean, ultimately, it's not good or bad. It's just what it became. But it's so interesting because same thing with anime, right?
Yeah.
VHSs, then DVDs, Blu-rays, and now, I mean, it's all streaming. I don't buy much anime, but I have a Crunchyroll account, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm supporting anime, but I watch the majority, I would say I watch 98% of my anime, I don't buy. But
Yeah.
I'm streaming, but I'm supporting it, right? I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes any sense, right?
No, no, it's true. You
It's
pay
not
your monthly subscription, so yeah.
but it's not pirating it, but I don't own it, right?
In a way, it sounds weird, but even though it's not, if you really do the long-term math, annually, it's probably not cheaper because you get an entire box series for many times over what you pay in a year. It does feel like it is because you have access to so many different series that you wouldn't have paid for just through a subscription and
I
getting
watch
it's
a
almost
lot of
like
anime.
sampling it. So yeah, I like
I
that.
watch about 500 episodes of anime a year. So,
Yeah, it's pretty good for you. Yeah.
I also don't have space. So like I watched all Naruto. I don't want to buy Naruto. I,
Yeah.
I I have no place to put it. I don't want to buy it. So I want to watch it, but I don't want to buy it. And I don't mind spending $100 a year for Crunchyroll, because I agree that the life value of me buying a season of Naruto over the next 30 years will be cheaper if I bought it, without a
Mhm.
doubt. But I don't want to buy it, and I don't want to store it, and I don't want to look at it because I have no space on my shelves. I
Yeah.
have none. I have none. So, but I digress. I and again, I also feel that let's say I hate a series on the first episode. If I bought it, I'm like, fuck. Just god damn it. If
Well, no,
I'm
I have a rule. You have to watch the first 3 episodes. The first episode could really be horrible, and then by episode 3, it could be like your favorite series because you just never know. You
I
never know.
granted, I will grant it to you 50% of the time. There's a show. I'm not going to name this show. I just couldn't do it after the first episode. I'm like, I tried second, and after I said, okay, let me give it a second episode. I said, I can't do this show. I'm sorry. I just can't do it.
Well, see, now I wanna know what show it is.
It was Lord of Mysteries, and it just didn't
Oh,
vibe with me.
wow.
That
Okay.
show just didn't vibe with me. Like
Well, maybe do you not just, like, not like the genre? Maybe that's what it is.
it was like too convoluted, and there was just like the color palette was off for me. Like it's the concept and the color palette, and just where we were going with it. It just didn't flow with me, right?
No, I
But
mean, everyone has that show. Mine was an old show called Ping Pong Club.
I know that
So,
show. I know
that
that show.
show disturbed my brain. I was like, "I just can't." But,
Like
yeah.
sometimes something like and something that you say, you know what, not my genre. It's the same thing with a book, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
I just can't. Like I pick a book, I'm just like, yeah, this didn't work. And then sometimes I pick a book, I'm like, man, I can't put this thing down. And for like 2 days straight, I just read through the whole thing, and I'm like, man, that was good, right? So
Yeah.
so sometimes it just doesn't work. And then sometimes I pick up a show, I'm like, man, I didn't think I was gonna like this, but this was great. But I digress here. Obviously, you got a lot going on, and I figured I'll give you a chance to promote yourself because we've been speaking for almost an hour and a half, and
Yes.
you know, and I was nervous in this interview, without a doubt. Building it. I was nervous because I'm like, oh man, I don't know how this is gonna work, but you got a lot going on. So where could people find you on social media, follow you, website? Also, you got anything coming out that you can mention or expected dates that things might be mentioned? Because I know you have some NDAs. There are
Yeah.
3 on your resume that you can't talk about, but
I
expected date.
technically have 6 now, but I haven't added. But, so, yeah, okay, so for socials, I'm on the site that I'm not really a fan of called Twitter, under Maria Amelia Park, very original. And then mariaameliapark.com on Blue Sky. And if you go to LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, it's also just my name, Maria Amelia Park. So very easy to find me online. And my website is also mariaameliapark.com. So if anyone wants to check that out. As for things coming out, I do have projects coming out. And they're NDA. But there's one that may be coming out in April. So just be checking Crunchyroll and Netflix, I guess is a good way of saying. And then there's another project. Okay, so this one, I kind of announced it. If you play a game called Foundation Galactic Frontier, it's basically based on the Apple TV series Foundation. I'm Killer B in that, so that is one of my latest video game roles. Um, and I think they haven't released the Steam version, but they have their app version and then their PC version of the game. So that is out, and it seems to be doing pretty well. A lot of people are doing gameplays on it, so but yeah, I'm a legendary Killer Bee. I look like Storm from X-Men, so Aurora Moreau. So if you see anybody that looks like that in a spacesuit, that is me. Let's see. Oh, this is hard. I'm trying to think what I can say without getting in trouble.
You don't have to say anything. You can just stop all your head.
I have stuff coming out. So look, I have a few video games. I have a couple of animations, and I have some audio projects coming out between April and, if I'm not mistaken, September. And then who knows what I'll get next week. So it's just what it is. We're always hustling in this world.
You can stop all your head. You can stop all your head. I'm not going to press too hard on that. And then since it's my show, I like to promote myself. Since it's my show, I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter. I am a fan. I tweet a lot about sports, and I get very creative on how I tweet about my sports. Friday is going to be a very eventful day. We have Kansas. No, I'm sorry. We have Duke playing St. John's. I am on St. John's position on that game. It's going to be a war, but St. John's is the underdog. But I think they could bring it to Duke. I think they could beat the evil Duke. Duke is an empire. St. John's was a rebel force. How do you lose when you are an empire? I'm sorry. It's one of the funniest skits ever on YouTube. How do you lose when you're an evil empire? But anyway, so it's gonna be very fun at 7:00 on Twitter with me. So if anybody would like to follow me on Twitter and watch me tweet very creatively, that's where you go. Mostly I tweet about sports. Occasionally there's other tweets that happen. But Instagram is fun. Pop Anime Comics. Facebook, Pop Anime Comics. YouTube, I do a lot of interviews. There's almost 1,200 interviews on YouTube, and a lot more are coming this year. So if you, and this is what I've been saying for a long time, is that I cannot promise that I will make you smarter with my interviews, but I can assure you will be entertained. I can assure you will be entertained, and there's an interview for everybody on that. Everything from comics, cosplay, wrestling, writers to crypto. I've done it all and everything in between. And there's some really interesting stuff that I've done and interesting people that I've been on. So you name it, I've done it. It would be hard pressed not to find it, and I dare somebody to do. But that's what I got going on. And then TikTok, Pop Anime Comics, and then the final thing I do is that I have an eBay store. Look for comics and collectibles. Come shop with us on eBay. Pop Anime Comics Collectibles. And as I teased a little bit before, I sell stuff like this in my store. I sell books like this in my store, comics. I sell rare cards like this in my store. I do sell stuff like this, which are 101s, which are expensive cards. And I do sell some other cool stuff as well. So a lot of rare cards, a lot of $4 cards, rare comic books, basic comic books, you name it, I sell it. And I've been saying it also in my eBay stores that if you are looking for something, shoot me a message on eBay, whether it's a comic or a card. And if I have it, I will list it for you. And I'm happy to do that and figure it out. And if I don't have it, I have a lot of friends in comics. I have a lot of friends in card stuff. And I'm happy to refer you to the right place because I know how difficult it is to get collectibles and find stuff when you've been looking for it forever. I get it. And I'm happy to direct you to the right place. So please shoot me a message if you're looking for stuff because I got you covered, everybody. But ask first, because I may have it. It just might not be listed. But that's everything that I got going on. And I'm going to give you the final word.
Oh, awesome. Well, this has been amazing, and I do support anyone who is nerdy like me, and you are a nerd, so very happy to be here. And yeah, make sure you like and subscribe to his channel and check out my website, mariaameliapark.com.
And I don't think I could have said that or you could have said that any better. And I think that is a